Discuss. And like the title suggests, here are 20 unpopular opinions. Unpopular means the vast majority, if anybody, will agree with a single one of these. And compound it times 20 means there's a good chance not one single player on all three platforms will agree with the stuff said in this video. And that is so fine. Please comment below. I'm looking forward to what you have to say. One big caveat though. This is from an end game perspective, and everybody has different ideas and definitions on what end game is. To me, end game are trials. Not the easier content like Voss and MTOS and RAQs and Reapers, but the harder content that requires knowledge of your class, strong builds, practice, mechanics, teamwork, coordination. That's what really puts trials apart from all the easy content in the game. So I'm speaking from an end game perspective. And if you're not end game yet, that's fine. That means you're not gonna see anything that I'm seeing. And I could be seeing everything wrong. Please disagree below if you do. Unpopular opinion number one. Melee classes are in a great state. They're just fine and they need no changes. It's very common to see in the forums. And when I say forums, basically anytime I see written words on this game, Reddit, Facebook, Discord, Arc forums, PE Zone chat, um, PlayStation network chats. Anytime, anywhere I can read about Neverwinter, it's very common to see somebody write that Melee are in a disadvantaged state. I think they're in a great state. And I think there's sometimes when I'm hosting some trials where I prefer the Melee over the ranged classes. I don't get it. I don't understand. But maybe it's true, but I have yet to see it. And we haven't had the pleasure of running the new trial yet because we don't have preview on PS4. The first team to complete it had three melee, half their DPS were melee. Just another reason to think that the trend will continue, that melee are in a great state. Number two, random queues are a major waste of time. And if they're a major waste of time, I don't recommend them to anybody. Yes, when you first start the game, you need some AD to get up to high enough item level to get into certain zones where you can start farming. But that will only last like 2 or 3 days. And after that, random queues, most people that I've seen, if they complete them, are spending well over an hour to get 100k rough AD. And if you've been playing this game for a while, you know 100k rough AD will get you nowhere in this game. You need AD and lots of it. So you got to farm or a credit card. And I get it. You get home, it's been a long day, and you just want to log on, run into a dungeon, kill shit. Okay, yeah, I got it. But if you really want to make a strong build, you need lots of AD. And running random queues will never get you the AD you need to get your tune built up. I don't recommend them to anybody. If you notice in the forums, random queues seem to be the biggest source of headache in this game. I'm wondering if random queues cause more people to quit than causes people to stay in the game, to be honest. I don't recommend them. Mm, Number three, I can't wait for this new trial. It looks amazing. It looks like the most challenging thing Neverwinter has ever put together and maybe will ever put together. Uh, but there's a part of me that's not excited about it. I wouldn't be surprised if 5%, and that might be generous, percent of the Neverwinter population will be able to access that new trial. It looks that hard. And if only 5%, could be less, maybe more, 5% of the population can access the new trial, that means this new Module 25 will have nothing for the remaining 95% of the Neverwinter population. Oh, whatever percent. Well, I'm just guessing. Uh, but if that's true, that means it's an empty mod. And if you're part of an active alliance and you got your finger on the pulse, you know that another dead mod is not good for the health of your alliance. I'm actually dreading what might happen with this new trial. I can't wait to do the trial myself. But we need players in this game if we want to have an MMO, and I just don't know if this new mod's offering anything at all for the what I believe may be the vast majority of the player base who won't be able to go into this trial. Uh, we'll see. Hopefully, I'm wrong on that one. I see this all the time. I have 670k plus item level characters. That's great. There's one problem. You have six mediocre characters. My unpopular opinion is it's best to have one great tune than it is to have six or however many mediocre tunes. Because when you have one great tune, you can do a lot more than you can with seven mediocre tunes. In no way am I saying that I am great, because I know I still have room for improvement. Uh, but I do know that there's a lot of players who have not practiced enough on their characters yet to become really proficient in their class yet. And instead of spending all that time making new tunes, maybe they should focus on their one character first. And then once you become great at that, then make another one. Mm. Tanks, number five. Tanks are vital. You know, it's a common complaint that there's not enough tanks. Here's the unpopular opinion. Tanks are extremely easy and cheap to make. Extremely cheap. Because they basically have two roles in most dungeons to keep aggro and position the boss for mechanics. That doesn't require a lot. We've verified this in Master Zero, in Crown of Keldagon, all these trials. Tanks don't need very much to do their role. Now, it can start getting expensive when they get to very end game because at that point they're using a lot of buffs to contribute to the group's damage, which makes their job much harder. But tanks are cheap, very cheap to make. Number six, it's very common advice to tell new players to join a high level guild. I would argue that that's not good advice. I think they're telling them that so they can get the 3K item level boost. Well, where do they need 3K item level for? To get from 47 to 50K to do Reapers? Well, I think everybody can agree. This is an unpopular opinion. If you need 3,000 item level to get into Reapers, chances are your build's not ready for it. You're going to need two really, really, really strong players to pull you. Um, I think the best advice is to join a guild that's active who runs the content you're running. Because if you are new to the game and you join a level 20 guild, they're probably not running any of the content you're running, which means you're running solo, which means you're not getting any social aspect in the game, which is fine to some people. They don't want to, but some people like running stuff with other people and hanging out and chatting. You might not get that in a high level guild until while you're leveling. So I don't know if joining a high level guild is a good piece of advice. Mm, number seven, the word elitism is thrown around quite often. Guess what my observation is about the people who use the word elitism? People who use the word elitism are usually people who don't host. And what's funny about that is if they hosted one trial one time, they would probably never use the word elitism again because they're throwing out a term for something they don't even understand what's going on yet. Uh, please disagree below. Number eight, people say the endgame community is toxic in Neverwinter. I would argue the opposite. I would say the endgame community is very open, very welcoming, and very helpful. It's the newer player base that's toxic. You can't be endgame and run endgame content if you're an asshole. Nobody will invite you. Nobody will join your groups. It doesn't make any sense. Number nine, it's very, very common to blame the tanker healer for failed runs. But here's the truth. For 99% of the game, it's never the tank or healer's fault. It's the DPS's fault for failing the content you're running. Why so? Because 99% of the game doesn't require a tank or healer. So whose fault is it then? Yep, that's right. Please disagree below. Number 11. Very common advice in this game is to tell people to cap their stats. I don't think that's good advice. As a matter of fact, I think that's the opposite of good advice. I think that's bad advice. It is almost impossible to perfectly cap a stat. Most of the time, players don't cap it, they go over. They have green numbers, they have red numbers, they have orange numbers, which means they're wasting stats, which means their build is not efficient, which means they have room to improve their build. 89, 88% are just fine. I would argue better than 90%. Number 12. Accuracy is an amazing stat. People call it a dump stat. It's garbage. It has no uses. There are many times in this game when accuracy actually contributes to more damage than combat advantage will, or crit strike will, or crit severity will. Accuracy is an amazing stat. It's highly overlooked. Number 13. The envenomed artifact is dog shit. I get annoyed every single time I see it in a dungeon. Because guess what we always have to do with the envenomed artifact users? Wait at the door for it to cool down so they can replace it with a debuff. So that means the 1 to 1.5 seconds we saved by them using an envenom to kill the mob 1 second faster, we're now wasting 20, 30, 40 seconds for them to swap artifacts. It is so annoying. God, they should ban that artifact. Number 14. I've been asked this question for years. I've made a few build videos. And a common question is, what do you do for AoE? What's an AoE rotation? What should I use for AoE? Here's my suggestion. Don't worry about it because AoE damage does not matter at all. Anywhere. The only time it may matter is if you're trying to do Voss by yourself, then you'll have to focus on killing the mobs faster. Uh, mm, it, Trials. People think it might matter on the spiders and MTOS. It absolutely does not matter. On the spiders are extremely easy in MTOS. People just make it hard by burning the boss too fast. Um, Maybe on the cleric phase and master Tiamat, but generally if the groups are strong in there, it doesn't matter if they build for anything AoE or not. AoE is fun when you look at the damage board, but it has almost no effect whatsoever on the outcome of the board. Just to verify that, please send me a screenshot in Discord of somebody posting in PE chat right now. Stuck at third mobs in MTOS, need a high DPS. Please show me that. Or a screenshot from somebody in your line saying, hey, we're stuck at the second to last mobs in MTOS. We need a high DPS. Never been said. Never will be said because mobs have no effect on the outcome of the dungeon. Everything in the current state of the game is purely the bosses. So you need to focus on that. People chasing the top to be leaderboard are focusing on the mob damage. I don't think it's worth the time. Number 15. People hate the leaderboard. I think it's great. It's one of the only tools we have on PS4. It's so funny. People are like, you can use the dummies and test the dummies. You cannot. I don't think it is physically possible. I don't think the damage log is long enough to test. For example, I've asked multiple PC players if they would run a couple bosses with Regis and a couple bosses with Succubus and see which one's outperforming throughout the whole run. I still have not got an answer, and I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to test that either. But there's only one way to find out. You can't use. We don't have ACT, so what are we supposed to use on PS4 to see how our adjustments to our build are working? That's right. The leaderboard can be used by toxic assholes to be jerks, or it can be used for good, which I think its intended purpose is to see how well your build's doing. Number 16. Does anybody like beggars in PE chat? People saying, hey, does anybody have something I can have for free? Can you give me something? Well, asking, I think, I might be wrong, DPS looking for Reaper, tank looking for Voss. I think that's begging. Uh, Please disagree. It's so much easier to host than it is to beg for runs. Once you start hosting, you will never go back because it opens the door for this game. You will learn so much more about this game when you get over the initial apprehension of hosting. When you start hosting this game, it's like it becomes a whole new game. Begging in PE will not get you any better. People say CWs are overpowered. This is number 17. People say CD control wizards are overpowered. My unpopular opinion is they need a buff, a huge buff. And I think I'm going to do a part 2 to this video tomorrow, and I'll go into that discussion even further. They're not the top DPS in this game. They should be, because they only have one role in the game. And it's kind of unfair to the 3 disadvantaged classes to only have one role and not be great at it. They're pretty good, but they're not the best. Number 18. Unless you're on an uber preformed team, Stormforged weapons are complete dog shit. Number 19. They took Juma out of Valenhaus in Mod 25. We're not going to see it in Valenhaus. I think that's a great move. Players have spent hundreds, if not thousands, of hours wasting their time in Juma when they could have been making AD or getting better at their tunes. What a great way to get players to get better and earn AD by getting rid of a time sink. That thing was horrible. Number 20. People say there's a huge imbalance in this game. I would argue the game has never been more balanced than it is right now, today, in this game. DPSs are so evenly matched. There's a few, little bit here, a little bit there, but they're percentages. Healers are great. Tanks are great. Okay, I will give this. You don't see people asking for Warlock healers too often for trials. I will say that. I will admit to that one. But overall, the overall state of the game, it is a great balance in the game. Well, there you go. 20 unpopular opinions. Please comment below. I'm looking forward to what you have to say. Stay classy, Neverwinter. See you soon.